Well, the number one story, according to Grok. Now, I didn't have anything to do with this. I did say to include Tessa Blanchard in the prompt because I wanted to get into the Tessa Blanchard story because I had a tweet yesterday that blew up.
Your
I
boy
got
went
signal
viral.
boosted by a couple of prominent reporters, and I'm trying to actually find the tweet in here because I have like a million notifications on this damn thing. I'm trying to find it, but I did blow it up because it did blow up. I got like 40,000 some odd views on this thing. And I'm trying to. Okay, here it is. I'm actually going to play the clip from Brace for Impact yesterday. Let's see. Sorry guys, this is bad radio. So if you're just listening, I promise I'm not that bad at my job. Okay. Maybe. Let's see. Boom. All right. Here we go. This is me talking about Tessa Blanchard, TNA, and what they're doing to the media. And TNA, they're doing a really bad thing with this Tessa. And what I mean is they're putting her out in the media in all these different markets, and they're telling people to interview her, and they can't talk about the allegations, right? And they're dangling other TNA wrestlers in front of them. It's like, if you interview Tessa and you don't talk about the issues, you can interview Joe Hendry. You can interview XYZ also. But if you refuse to interview Tessa, we're not going to let you interview anybody. So that's what they're doing. They're playing this game with the media. And a lot of people, two people I know specifically, have said, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to be dictated to what questions I can and can't ask Tessa. So if I can't ask her hard questions, I'm not going to interview her at all. And I don't want to interview anybody else.
Well, I mean, that kind of, that's we would call that legental activity, right?
Yeah.
For learning.
You know, so I'll go ahead and tell a little bit of a story about. Yeah. So people are saying this is a new thing. This is WWE dictating policy for TNA, and TNA is trying to be more like WWE. No. I can tell you that we interviewed two wrestlers back in the Brace for Impact days, Moose and Steve Macklin. Now with Moose, nothing was off the table except one topic, and it's not the topic that you would think would be off the table. It was COVID. And the guy on the phone said, he called me on the phone. He's like, look, you can ask him whatever you want. I don't care. Don't talk about COVID because Moose doesn't know anything about COVID. And I was like, this was in like 2022, I think, maybe 2021, something like 2021, 20. I can't remember exactly the time frame. I was sick of COVID at that point anyway. So I was like, I'm fine with that because I don't want to talk about COVID anyway. And the first thing we did was ask him about his contract, and he fucking lied to us. He lied to us.
Through his teeth while giving, I think it was Sean Ross Sapp. Like, I think we talked to Sean Ross Sapp like almost immediately after we posted the interview, and he was like, "No, he's signed." Like,
like he told another podcast that he had signed. Now we didn't get now we didn't get into the DV stuff. That was pretty early in me interviewing people at the time. That had already been covered before, so I didn't even think to bring that one up because we had like 10 minutes with the guy. So I wanted to talk about his contract status, and then of course talk about. There was a couple other questions. None of them really softball. I thought we asked some pretty good questions. We had a good time with them. Okay. And then like a year later, I get offered Steve Macklin, and I get the phone call again. I was like, okay, like if he tells me I can't ask Steve military questions because we have that in common, I'm not going to interview Steve. Right. And so he calls me and he says, you can ask him whatever you want, but don't ask him about his relationship with Deonna Purrazzo. I was like, okay, that's easy. I wasn't going to ask about that relationship. I don't give a fuck about that anyway. So they did dictate to me what I couldn't ask, but it was questions I wasn't planning on asking anyway. And it was, everything else was on the table at the time. So, but that is not anything new. 5 years ago when this stuff broke out with Tessa, they had her answer questions immediately. On a conference call, Sean Ross Sapp asked her about the situation specifically with the racism issue, and she just denied it, right? And their opinion is that she has addressed the situation 5 years ago, and she doesn't need to talk about it anymore. The problem is she's a racist chance on live TNA shows, and the longer that this festers and the longer she avoids talking about it, the worse it's going to get for her. This plan that they have in place with her being pushed out into the media, them trying to control the narrative, is not working. People are rebelling against it. It's going to come back and bite them in the ass tenfold. She needs to get out ahead of it. I know some people that know her right? And I've had my buddy BQ do some reporting on this, and he's talked to people in management there. They believe that she had that moment with La Rosa Negra in, I can't remember where it was. It might have been in Japan, where she said the word, right? She said the word in that altercation, but they don't believe that she's like a white supremacist based off of who she surrounds herself with, where she lives, like Mexico, who she's married to, who she used to be married to. She was dating with Ricochet. She was roommates with Moose. She was trained by Cedric Alexander. They don't feel that she's a racist and she's not acting racist in their company. That is the company's stance, right? You can like that or not like that, but that's what they believe. And they're like, we have not witnessed anything like that. And those two squashed that beef years ago. So they're like, we should all just move on. The problem is people now have realized that they can go to these shows and they can get themselves over and they can get, you know what I mean? And they're going to, those chants are still going to persist if she doesn't get out ahead of it. She's got to answer the questions. And I think that she should talk to Shawn Michaels. And I'll tell you why. Shawn Michaels had years of allegations against him of being bully, being a jerk, being a pain in the ass, being a junkie, doing all kinds of dastardly deeds. And that man answered every single question under the sun for years. He was even on a media conference call with all of the wrestling journalists asking him about potentially drugging people, doing all kinds of stuff. And he sat there and answered every single question. And he did it with dignity and grace. And I heard him do the same thing with Steve Austin. I heard him do the same thing on different radio shows throughout the years. He handled it. And you know what? Nobody gives the guy crap because like he handled it, and he answers the questions in a way that you actually kind of believe that he might be telling the truth, right? She needs to get out ahead of it. She needs to get like a coach or something, or else this is going to continue to persist. And eventually she's probably going to lose her spot in TNA because what they don't want is every time they go live is to have she's a racist chance on their TV.
That's a bad one. When you interview a celebrity, it is not crazy to have their publicist or their agent or whoever say, this is off limits, right? You want to interview Tom Cruise, you are not allowed to ask him Scientology questions.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Now, does it make for softball interviews? Absolutely. But when you want those big name star interviews, that's you have to play with that. Now, that being said, is TNA doing a good job at this? No, they are not.
Well, and they're acting like they're in the power position with some of these outlets, and they're not. they're not. I can tell you the two interviews that we did absolute shit numbers for us. They didn't pop anything, dude. I interviewed Sean Merriman last year. And I was like, he's like a real celebrity. He's like an NFL legend. And it did absolutely nothing. Right. So these interviews are not really popping numbers unless they say something controversial. I think Tessa answering real questions would actually do numbers. But if on your airways and you're giving her softball questions and she's not addressing anything and she's just, being nice, I'm sure she's being nice. And promoting the show, like no one wants to watch that. That doesn't help you out. It only helps out the company. So why would you do that? Why would you subject yourself to that? So you're better off not interviewing her at all.
It doesn't help you. TNA, they have that WWE working relationship, but they aren't WWE.
Yeah.
Right. And they just have to, it's not working. It's not going to go away. They need to figure out a different plan.
Yeah. I think they're like, well, we're not going to, because it really isn't that many people, but their crowds are not that big. So it only takes like 10, 15 people to get a chant going.
Especially at Full Sail. We talked about that earlier. That Full Sail crowd loves to get itself over. So once they know once it becomes a meme, we're stuck.
Yeah. And I had, there were some people that were at Full Sail when that chant started and in San Antonio when that chant started. Now, I cannot corroborate this, so don't act like I'm reporting this. I'm not reporting this. This is just what people that were there that bought tickets told me. Okay, so let me just get that out of the way. That the people that were chanting she's a racist were also in line to get autographs with Tessa after the show.
Of course they were.
Yeah. So I wasn't there, so I didn't see it with my own eyes. So that's just what people told me. That could be total bullshit, but like the longer this continues, the longer she tries to avoid the situation, the worse it's going to get. They need to get out in front of it, and they're not doing a good job. And, I might have to heat with that company because I talked about this openly, and other media outlets did not want to talk about that openly because I think they want to have a symbiotic relationship with their communications people there in TNA. Our show does not depend on access to those companies. So if I hear something and I get it corroborated from multiple people, I'm going to go ahead and go with it, which is what happens. So I don't care how it makes anybody look. It's the truth. And I disagree with that policy. I really do. I think they should just get her out there and do an interview. Like, even if it's like busted open, like just get out there and let them ask those questions.
Our platform is small enough where we don't need anyone's, like, we don't need the support of a company, right?
Right.
We can just be ourselves.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the show, or let's get to the comments. I don't think we've only, like, David Bixenspan and Sue Williams took over our comments. Fight to Live is back. Finally, wrestling talk after 45 minutes.
You left, my man. You left.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. Let's talk politics again. I'm just kidding. Let's see. Nathan, did we see who won the election? Are we sure these chants are not meant to be laudatory? Maybe. So they were in Texas and Florida. Maybe. Let's see.
No comment. I can't comment.
Oh, you know what? I can't. I'm not actually going to read that one. Sorry. I love you, Australian. I'm not going to do that one. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. We're overtime. We're an hour and 8 minutes in. I do thank everybody for being here. Thanks to everybody that tuned in on X. We got a lot of viewers on X tonight, so thank you for that. And go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I will try to get some midweek content out this week, especially if something breaks. Unfortunately, nothing really broke in the middle of the week, so I didn't hit up the Patreon. I saved everything for the Brace for Impact show. But yesterday, I had a big show, like 90 minutes. So if you're a TNA fan, I put out a couple of videos already. They're on the YouTube right now, so go ahead and check those out. But go to Patreon. That's where you get all the best content. And if you want this show ad-free in your inbox right away, first thing, go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. That's the best way to listen to this podcast. But
absolutely.
Yep. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. And until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick, it's a click, so I hope you watch your A game. Made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the